you ever like to go have fun at a theme park?
I do.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, with summer here, it's on our minds.
Yeah.
All the theme parks we're kind of, I'm planning which ones I'm gonna go to. None of the ones on this list.
Yeah, there we go. Probably not any of these. we wouldn't recommend it. All right, let's hop right into it today with the world's most dangerous theme park, Action Park, located in Vernon, New Jersey. Nicknamed Class Action Park, it's home to the infamous Cannonball Slide, which left many patrons with bruises, scratches, cuts, and cracked craniums. When it was first tested using crash dummies, many of them came out dismembered. Luckily, that wasn't the case with humans, but many of them were severely injured on the water slide, which didn't even let out to a pool, but rather a rubber mat. Next up, we've got the Wave Pool, aka the Grave Pool, where 3 out of 6 deaths that took place at the park occurred. 3 drownings took place in the Wave Pool, where lifeguards generally were required to make 30 saves a day due to the waves being too high and lasting too long, and yet they never thought to turn it down. Another water-related death occurred on the grounds after a man suffered a heart attack after dropping into an extremely cold spring-fed pool from a zip line. Not necessarily the park's fault, but definitely still worth mentioning. Another death to occur on the grounds took place during the kayak experience. While going down an artificial river, a man's kayak tipped over. When he got out to flip it back, he stepped on some exposed wire under the water. He was electrocuted and died. While the park claimed no responsibility for the incident, they drained the river anyways. The final death I want to mention was actually the first death to take place at the park, and it was the death of an employee after his plastic cart was thrown from a fiberglass slide and he slammed his head directly into a rock at the end of the ride. You'd think they would have cleared the path. I would say this park scored 10 out of 10 for places to go never. Also, it was shut down, so you can't. You're up, James.
This next incident is why I'm typically pretty wary of rides that are set up and then taken down, like at fairs and carnivals and stuff. So at the time of recording, this just happened last week at the Lambeth Country Show in London. So a fairground ride collapsed, causing injuries to 4 people who were taken to the hospital. Among the injured were a girl, a man and woman in their 40s, and a man in his 50s. Now, thankfully, none of their injuries are life-threatening, but this was pretty horrific. At this point, we don't really know what caused the ride to malfunction, but an investigation's been launched. People said it was an absolutely chaotic scene with people sent flying through the air. One visitor said all hell broke loose after the incident.
Next up, we've got Kings Island, located in Mason, Ohio, which is still open but has hopefully updated its safety procedures since 1991. Why? Well, because on June 9th of 1991, 4 people died at the park. The first incident happened after a man fell into a pond on the grounds. 2 people, a friend of his, William Haithcote, and an employee, Daryl Robertson, both 20 years of age, jumped in after the man to rescue him. All 3 were electrocuted, and both Haithcote and Robertson died from the shock. Just 1 hour later, a 32-year-old woman named Candy Taylor was flung from a ride called the Flight Commander and died instantly on impact with the ground. It is now believed that the grounds are haunted and that the spirits on the grounds were to blame for the incidents that took place on June 9th. Many people, including the ghost hunters from the show Ghost Hunters, have reported seeing a young woman in a blue dress sulking around the park and feeling strange sensations while roaming the grounds.
This next story is pretty unbelievable. An incident that could have easily been avoided if there had been more regulations in place. So this is the story of Schlitterbahn Waterpark in Kansas City. So in 2016, a young visitor to the park was killed on the Verrucht water slide after having collided with a pole that was holding a safety net. The ride had been rushed to completion in 2012 to meet a deadline for a reality TV show that was going to be featuring the park. The ride lacked proper safety measures and oversight, and the designers and builders of the ride, including the park's owner, were not required to have any engineering certification. They were enthusiasts rather than professionals, and the ride didn't undergo state inspections. Apparently, Kansas has pretty lenient laws when it comes to amusement parks. And I'm not just like saying that, apparently that actually is the case. Now, even during testing, the designers themselves weren't confident whether the slide was going to be safe or not. Sandbags used for testing just flew off unpredictably, so it didn't look good, and that's why they installed the safety net. But they didn't foresee that one of the poles holding up the net would ever be a problem.
Next up, we have Six Flags Over Georgia, located in Atlanta, Georgia. The park is still open, and so is the ride that claimed the lives of 2 individuals in separate incidences that took place in 2008 and 2002. In June of 2008, a man named Asia Lee Ferguson lost his hat while riding Batman the Ride, a roller coaster that takes passengers through the streets of Gotham City and into the depths of the Batcave at a speed of 80 kilometers or 50 miles per hour. After the ride, Ferguson, determined to get his hat back, climbed over the 2 fences separating him and the ride. While he was searching for his hat, he wandered into the path of the roller coaster, and his head was taken clean off. While this may sound like user error, a similar incident actually took place just 6 years earlier when a groundskeeper was cleaning the area surrounding the ride. The roller coaster came by and he was hit in the head by the outstretched leg of someone on the ride. The ride was closed for a single day to be inspected before being reopened to the public.
Next up, we have Adventureland in Altoona, Iowa. This next park has actually changed ownership, so hopefully it's in better, safer hands now. 3 deaths have happened at the park though, the most recent being a contractor who lost his life while working there in 2023. In 2016, an elderly man died on the Raging River ride, which continued to operate afterwards, and that was a big mistake, because the 2016 accident was not an isolated incident. In 2021, a raft flipped over, trapping a family underwater. This resulted in the death of a boy, with his father hospitalized and his brother in a coma for a month. The family rightfully sued the park. And as I said, Adventureland changed hands with new owners taking charge. Apparently they're working harder to make sure everything is safe.
Next up, we have Luna Park, located in Coney Island in Brooklyn, New York City. Home to the Cyclone, a massive wooden roller coaster built in 1927 that has been inducted into the National Registry of Historic Places, is still operative today and is responsible for the deaths of at least 3 individuals. On May 26th of 1985, a 29-year-old man was killed instantly after standing up on the ride and hitting his head on a crossbeam of the roller coaster. Just 3 years later, an employee lost his life on August 23rd of 1988. While riding in the backseat of the coaster during a lunch break, the 26-year-old maintenance worker was flung from the coaster and died after falling 30 feet and landing on a crossbeam located on a lower section of the track. The ride was closed, inspected, and reopened just a day later. Fast forward to 2007, on July 31st of that year, the last recorded fatality occurred when a 53-year-old man suffered from several crushed vertebrae in his neck that he acquired during his time on the Cyclone. He was taken to hospital and died 4 days later due to complications during surgery.
Alright, next on the list, I mean, you're gonna call me crazy, Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. Yeah, that's right. Putting that one on the list. The most famous popular theme park on the face of the planet. Now, look, I'm obviously not saying the place should actually be shut down. That would be ludicrous. I hope to actually go one day. But what I am saying is there have been some pretty tragic incidents here over the years. There have been 60 deaths at this park, which I was kind of shocked to read. I mean, I'm like, Disney World? Now, for all the people that come through here, that may not sound like a very high number, but 60 deaths, I mean, that's 60 deaths. Certainly ain't nothing. First, there's the risk of death by natural causes. Given the size of the park, the number of visitors, it's really not that surprising that older folks or people with pre-existing medical conditions have died of heart attacks or other health issues while at the park. But there have been plenty of accidents on rides as well. There have been minor injuries and more serious ones. Disney has even faced several lawsuits and out-of-court settlements related to some of these accidents. So, you know, just be a little more careful when you're walking into a park like this. For as big and famous as it is, still dangers lurking around every corner.
Next up, we have the FunFair of Coney Beach, located in Porthcawl in South Wales. If I'm pronouncing Porthcawl incorrectly, I do apologize, but I'm just Canadian. What can I do? Of all the things to do in the small town of Porthcawl, it is safe to say that the most popular would be to visit the FunFair theme park fitted with roller coasters and other rides, games, pubs, snacks, shops, and more. While there had been many non-fatal accidents to occur on the rides at the park in the years prior, it wasn't until 1994 that the first death occurred on the grounds, when a young man was killed by a supporting frame that fell onto the tracks of the water chute roller coaster, crushing him to death. More accidents occurred throughout the years, but the park made a major mistake in 2004 when they hired a registered rhymes with Rex offender just 2 weeks after the man had received a court order explicitly banning him from being anywhere near young people. And if that look wasn't bad enough, in 2007, 26 deaths occurred on the grounds of the park during a phenomenon often referred to as the bridge end deaths. 26 individuals took their own lives between the years of 2007 and 2009, all on the grounds of the park, and all but one using a rope. Despite the park's missteps and rocky history, it actually remains open to this day, but I can't imagine it would be all that enjoyable after learning about what's gone on there. I think I'll skip this one, and all of the ones on this list, really. Maybe Disney gets a pass? Don't come for me.
Finally, we have Six Flags Ride of Steel. Yeah, Six Flags is back on the list. Apparently these parks are kind of notorious across the US. Now, one of the rides that's been responsible for a number of tragic incidents, though, is the Man of Steel, or Ride of Steel. At more than one location, mind you. In 1999, a passenger was thrown from the train on one of the final hills at the Darien Lake location in Buffalo. Fortunately, he only had minor injuries though. But then in 2011, a disabled Iraq war vet was ejected from the Man of Steel roller coaster at the same location, leading to his death. Now, in this case, it was an error on the employee's part. The ride restrains passengers at both the hips and the shins. The man didn't have two functioning legs, which was a requirement to ride, but the attendant allowed him to board. There have been other incidents at other locations where the Man of Steel ride is as well, so it seems like they gotta do a bit of work to make this thing a bit safer.
I never know whether it's incidences.
I think it's incidents, yeah.
Yeah, well,
Incidences.
you guys will correct our grammar. You always do.
That's what you're there for, obviously.
We
right?
appreciate it so much.
I don't.
If you have any others that we missed, let us know. If you've had any experiences, won any lawsuits in regards to theme parks, let us know.
We will catch you on the next video.
Yeah, we'll catch you in and around it. Cheers.